Good afternoon and welcome to Why Choose BoldTrail. If you haven't already, if you have, this will be a little bit of some insight into what the platform has. If not, it'll give you an idea about who we are, why we innovate tech the way we do, and why you should choose BoldTrail as your platform of choice. So let's dive in. I always get a lot of confusion because we've recently changed our platform name from KV Core to BoldTrail. So I always make sure to spend a couple minutes on this slide and talk about our journey as a company and how we've evolved over the years. So this straight line here in the middle, that's our tried and true parent company Inside Real Estate. You can see we had quite a journey even before the whole Inside Real Estate became our North Star. We were a company called Conversion, if any of you remember that. And then we evolved into KV Core in order to be able to provide services to agents, teams, and brokers. And we've ended up acquiring a lot of companies over the last several years. It's very important to us as a company to bring in as many practical, functional tools into the platform as possible, because we know how many different platforms you have to work with as an agent on a daily basis. And we really believe that you should be able to access everything all with one login. So you can see we've got all sorts of tools: listing automation, brand promotion, CMA and presentations. We've got recruiting tools. We've got a lot of fun AI. We've got AI already built into the platform, but we have a lot of really cool AI innovations coming out this year and early next year that I'll be able to talk through a little bit with you. And then really we've just taken what we believe are the best of the tech pieces in the industry, and we've brought them all in under one roof. So when you hear people talking about BoldTrail, it's really the best of all of the worlds of the platforms we've got and created, streamlined into one solution. And another question I get shortly after is, do you have IDX websites? Do you have listing management? Do you have all of these things that I've listed here? These are the features I get asked about most. And so I listed them here, but it's not an exhaustive list. So, it's not that we specialize in one area of your business or we specialize in one tool. We try to cover as much ground as possible. And we've made a very robust platform that you don't necessarily have to learn all of the tools. You just have to find the tools that work for your business strategy and learn those tools and implement those tools into your business. So that is an exciting piece for us. We have this navigation and omni search. This is one of our newer features that we launched with migrating over to BoldTrail from KV Core. And you've probably noticed the difference here if you also migrated. But what this is, in KV Core, the search bar really was to help you locate leads. And that was the extent of the functionality. With Omni Search, you can search leads, you can search tools in the platform, you can search resources. And when you pull up the list here, it'll actually have certain actions you can take as recommendations. It will recommend certain areas of the platform for you based on what you're typing in. So it's become very responsive and intuitive, and it's really streamlined the way that you navigate and use the platform. Next up, we have enhancements to the mobile app. This is something that we were really excited to be able to pick up and start working on and innovating on again. We've been able to make it faster and smarter. We've been able to streamline the navigation in the mobile app, clean up the tasks and the actions that you can take, and we've updated the UI, and we have other big plans for this as far as incorporating AI into the mobile app that we'll talk about a little bit later. Another new feature, this is probably one of my favorite features, is the custom pages editor. I'm a big believer that you should be able to serve up as much relevant content as possible on your website. And this is a way that allows you to do that. It allows you to totally convey your brand, your expertise, your niche, and really speak to your audience in a way that's going to get them engaging with your website and your platform, and is going to give you more behavioral insights than you probably ever thought possible. And this is all a drag and drop editor. So I don't know that it really shows the drag and drop editor, but what you can see here is these pre-made templates. It used to be that you had to either pay somebody on our team to create a custom page for you, or you had to go find a code engineer and pay them to create a custom page for you. But we realized how important it was, and saw how many requests we were getting, and saw the need. And so we delivered this really easy way for you to go in and create your own custom content without knowing code. You basically just select one of the templates, and then you can edit all of the fields. You can add and remove elements. It's super easy. And then you end up with these really beautiful, professional looking, functional pages that are super engaging for your audience. And there's lots more. So we've tried to modernize and simplify the experience when you log in. We've unified the call and task management. And the MLS listing deduplication was another thing we were really excited about. There's definitely a need for that, especially when you are boarding with multiple MLSs and you have duplicate listings. It can be a really big pain for you and for your viewers, because why is everything double, right? So now we have the ability to dedupe there, and it just creates a much better experience for everybody involved. Okay, on to this slide. And every time I pull this quote up, I always wish I would have added AI into it. But the key here is talking about automation. You don't automate to get rid of the human. You automate to amplify the human. This is one of the quotes or mottos that we really take to heart as we're innovating. And same with AI. We know that there's a lot of technology coming out, and the advancements in technology have been making leaps and bounds, especially over the last few years. And I know automation has been something that at first people were afraid of using, either because they didn't understand it, or they didn't like the messaging, or they didn't see the value, or they were afraid it was going to replace them. And the reality is you can actually tailor so much of this automation and use it in a way that's really going to amplify the way you do business. So before we really get started into some of the platform tools, I want to talk about these roadblocks. These are things that, we've been in the industry for a long time. And as we have gone through working with many, many agents and brokers, we find that these are the biggest challenges that agents run into. There's either a lead generation problem, there's a lead follow-up problem, lead conversion, definitely in our top 4, and client management. You can see some of the stats here. What's crazy, I'll just read one from each of these. For lead generation, we actually found out that most agents are generating less than 10 new leads per month. Keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about the lead funnel and why that number is important. And then for lead follow-up, we know that almost 50% of real estate leads never get followed up with. So we're either not generating leads, or we're generating leads and then we're not following up with them and never having a conversation. We also know that leads become a lead 8 to 10 times before they choose their agent. So if you're not following up with them, the agent who is following up is going to connect and convert that lead. Lead conversion. This is it's a speed to lead issue. It's a lead follow-up issue. It's I don't know how to talk to leads kind of issue, right? Or I don't know how to categorize leads in the right way so I can continue to nurture them. And so we've really tried to solve for that problem in the platform as well. And as far as client management goes, I think we all do our best, right? But there's definitely areas where you can use automation to help keep you connected with those audiences and stay engaged with them when either they're not ready yet or they're in a zone where they maybe just closed a transaction with you and they're in a position where they could give you referrals or testimonials or things like that. 93% of consumers say they would use their agent again, but only 15% of consumers actually do. That's a stark difference. And I'm sure you've heard all of these before, right? But these are top of mind for us. And then there's a couple other things here that are really top of mind for us as we talk about overcoming those challenges. The other kind of challenges we see agents dealing with are consumer demand, which the digital experience has really been shaped and dictated by companies like Amazon and Google, where, man, people can get information, they can get products overnighted to them. Everything's really at the tip of their fingers, and everything's really tailored to their wants and needs. And even though those are totally different industries, it still very much shapes the consumer's expectation of how you deliver your services and content and how their experience is with you. And then we also have this big dog competition. So this is, we're talking more about like Zillow and Rocket Mortgage. You have these big competitors who are actively pursuing your customers. The same customers you're going after, they're going after. They've created their business model on generating leads. And that can feel overwhelming, and you know that they're generating leads and probably leads that are in your database, and then they're feeding them to other agents. And how do you compete with that, right? Well, before we get too dark and stormy, there's good news. We actually got these stats from NAR, and we found that not only do 90% of consumers start their journey online, but out of those consumers, 85% of them visited an agent's website, not a Zillow website or a realtor.com website. They actually visited individual agent websites and were captured on agent websites. They also registered on agent websites for listing alerts, which means they would much rather work with an individual person. Another thing I just want to point out here, and I know I touched on it a little bit earlier, but consumers really want personalization. All of these companies that they're working with, I mean, you probably, if you look at your phone or tablet, you probably have 8 or 9 of these apps, right? I think we all use some of these, if not most of them. And think about your experience when you log in. It's not you having to go through and do the searching, it's the app recognizing this person has logged in. Last time they logged in, they interacted with these 5 things. Let's make a recommendation. They make it so easy for the consumer to get involved and get hooked on the content, where the person stays on the site longer, they're engaging longer, they're coming back more often. And those are behaviors that you have control over on your own website. So, you get data-driven insights when consumers engage with your website. And that's what these sites are doing. They've all got kind of an algorithm, right, that watches the behaviors, and then it serves up really tailored information. But with the AI advancements that we're making, you actually have the ability to do those kind of things too. So another concept we think about in being successful with real estate and how tech tools can help support you in these pillars. The first one is being found. So it's pretty obvious. This is lead generation or growing your database. So this is getting in front of people who are not in your sphere, getting new eyeballs on your business and your services, and trying to bring new people into your funnel. And then you've got be connected. This is really about, once you get the new leads, how do you make sure that you connect with them and have a conversation with them? Because conversations is ultimately what generates transactions. You can be getting all these new leads, but if you're not able to actually connect with them, what happens, right? We run into that problem where we don't get lead follow-up and we never end up connecting and engaging. And then they end up in somebody else's CRM and working with another agent. We don't want that, right? So being connected, this is really how you get that speed to lead, how you make your first conversation kind of connection. And then be involved is after you've connected with them or worked with them, how do you stay in front of them? How do you stay engaged long-term with them so that you can continue to be that person that they go to for information or refer people to, or, when they come full life cycle and they're ready to purchase or sell again, you're the person they use, right? Get that 93%, get closer to the 93% than the 15%. So if we dive a little bit deeper into being found, one of the best tools you have in BoldTrail is your website. You have a website that's connected to IDX, and right out of the gate, it's really tailored toward a person who is just getting into the search of a new home, or they're thinking about selling a home. It pulls all this information from the MLS. You don't have to do anything. All of that automatically appears. What your real job here is to get your website out there so that people can see it and click on it and end up in your online store. And you'll hear me talk about your website as your online store. Some of you might have a physical storefront. Some of you might not. A lot of you might just work from home and you've got an office you go into once in a while, but you don't have something that people are driving past with your name and your brand. That's your online store. And there are a lot of different places you can put that. There's a lot of different ways it can get in front of people. But that's your responsibility, is driving traffic back into your online store. Okay. So if we talk about the lead funnel, this is our magic number 10, right? Most agents only generate 10 or less leads per month, the majority. If that's not you, congratulations, you're probably doing great. If you're generating 10 or less leads per month, let's dump 10 leads into this funnel right now. And let's think about, out of 10 leads who register on your website, how many of those leads are you actually going to be able to have a conversation with, or get on the phone, or have them respond to a text message? I know a lot of people go, oh, 1, 2. The reality is, if you actually have good speed to lead and good follow-up, you can actually, the statistics tell us you can get in contact with 5 of those people. And out of the 5 people, so we would consider those prospects, right? Once you start talking to them, they're a prospect or a contact. Out of those prospects or contacts, how many of them do you think are actually actively searching for a property? We'll cut it in half again. We'll say 2.5. It just makes it easy for this purpose. So 2.5 might be actively searching. Out of those 2.5, how many are motivated to buy or sell in the next 3 to 6 months? We will cut it in half again, 1.25. Okay. And then out of the 1.25, how many will actually transact in the next 3 to 6 months? If we cut that in half again, it's less than 1. So you see why 10 leads is not enough leads. Now, if we start throwing something like 40 leads, 50 leads, and we cut that in half and cut that in half and cut that in half, we start ending up with numbers that are more realistic. And when I say transacting in the next 3 to 6 months, we know how long a transaction can take. Occasionally they'll move pretty quickly, but depending on your market, they could say, I want to do this right now. And then it could take them, a little while to really find the home, get the approvals, get their house up to par so you can list it, find the right price. And so if you're generating enough leads where you're getting 1 or 2 people who are going to transact in the next 3 to 6 months, that might not even be enough for you, right, to hit your GCI goals. So the way I like to think about it is figure out what my goal is, and then you can sort of reverse engineer and figure out how many leads you actually need to generate in order to get the right number of folks who are going to transact in the next 3 to 6 months. You probably want to end up with 6 really solid leads if you want 1 transaction per month in the next 3 to 6 months, right? So how many leads do you need to generate? That's a huge part of it. Realizing that not everybody's going to transact right now, but most people are going to transact eventually. Another thing to think about here is that the way you generate leads and the way you market your business, you'll capture leads who are in different phases of the timeline. We'll talk about timeline phases shortly, but it's a scale basically of how ready they are to transact. And so a lot of times when you do these free posts or marketing kind of things, you're capturing people who are kind of in the just looking phase. Every now and again, you might get somebody who's like, oh, awesome, you're an active agent. I want to sell right now, or I want to buy a home. Will you help me find a home? But the majority of those are going to be people who are sort of just looking and they're interested in information. And then you've got spending money on ads. When you spend money on ads, you can target the audience a little bit more, and you can get more granular into people who are like really actively looking, who are a little bit further down the timeline, maybe have a time frame in mind. They've done a little bit more of the work to get pre-approved. They know what they're looking for. These are kind of like more phase 2 kind of leads. And so having a healthy mixture of free lead generation and paid lead generation is a great way for you to build your pipeline and set yourself up for people who are ready to transact now and people who are ready to transact a little bit later on in the timeline. And you'll notice I've got Facebook and Instagram on both. A lot of people are like, oh, you've got doubles there. It's intentional because Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, there are a lot of free ways for you to generate leads. You can post on your Facebook page and your business profile. You can post in community groups, things like that. But then they also have paid for ad options. So that's a really healthy way to use a platform like that. Do some things that are going to target more your local community and people who know you, and then maybe pay for a couple of ads that are going to broaden the audience. I mean, if you think about your sphere, all the people, even if you have 1,000 followers, that's still such a little slim part of the total market available. And when you run an ad on Meta, that's something that is going to get outside of that, 1% or 3% that's already following you. The new eyeballs, it's going to get you found by new people. So how do we support that in BoldTrail? We have a playbook that's called the Promote a Listing Playbook. And this does pretty much all the things I just talked about. I should have had a screen up that shows all the different tools here. And maybe if we get a little bit of time at the end, I can go in and show you. But I would go in and click on the Playbooks tab and just check this out. Just open up a playbook. Basically, there are 7 plays. One of them is just announcing your listing, which you do anyway, right? But this helps you announce it to agents in your office, people who are your leads, who are looking at listings that potentially match the criteria of this new listing you've got. So you can announce it to them. Hey, I just had this listing come on market. Check it out. It actually generates a squeeze page and a landing page for you that you can copy the link and just go post it easily anywhere you want. Facebook, Craigslist, wherever you promote your listings. And then it also has a version of a meta ad available that you can run. I think our most popular, it's called Property Boost. Our most popular package for that is like a $70 ad. It's super affordable and you consistently get leads with those. And that's the one that's going to get you outside of your sphere and start getting new people drawn in. And then it also has like a seller follow-up, right? So you can actually send an email to your sellers that tells them how many people have looked at their property this week and how much engagement they're getting, because this playbook really helps boost engagement. So this is a great tool and probably one of our most underutilized, just because a lot of people don't know that it's there. Once agents figure out it's there, they fall in love with it. And I always hear them going, oh man, I can't believe I didn't know about that. This is the best thing since sliced bread. So go check that one out. And then we also have, okay, so Lead Engine. This is where a lot of your free tools are, right? So the landing page and squeeze page, this is included in that playbook that I was just talking about. You can create your own if you want to. If you have a specific criteria or you have a specific niche or an idea that you want to try out capturing leads or driving traffic to your online store, you can go and build something like that. And then there's the call and text capture tools. The text capture is really cool. You can just set up a text code for any of your listings, and then you can put that number out. All they would do is just text to the number you put on and get details of the home. You guys have probably used tools like that before. Anyway, that captures their information. It's like a little bit of quid pro quo, right? They text in, they're set as a lead, and then they get the information. Same as if they were online putting their information in, but it's actually a really easy access point, and a lot of people like doing that. And then we've got the marketplace, and the marketplace has all of these like add-on services. There are ads, there's integrations with other kind of partners or external tech pieces you might use that are not fully baked into the platform. But as far as generating leads go, there's anything from Property Boost, which, like I said, is super affordable and consistent. And then we've got other options if you're really trying to do a lot of lead gen, or you're trying to provide leads for your team or brokerage. You can look at any of those options. You can even schedule a consultation with one of our marketplace specialists. Okay, so that wraps us up on being found. And then let's move over to be connected. So this is our lead follow-up, really kind of converting them from a lead into a prospect. And for me, that distinction is after you've had a conversation with them. So in order to do that, you really need to understand today's consumer. Some of these I've already said. 9 out of 10 consumers start their search online. This is interesting. Pictures and details of homes are the #1 driver of lead engagement. So we're talking, they'll just go on your website just to look at pictures of homes. And search alerts are great because of this. A lot of them really don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to an agent. They just want information. And so they hide behind the wall of the internet to gather content. The 4 demographics, I think this is an interesting way to think about it because, different age groups communicate differently, and they are on different social platforms. So if you look statistically speaking, Facebook is by far the social media platform that has the broadest demographic participation. You've got everywhere from Gen Z to the baby boomers who are participating on Facebook. Whereas if you look at something like Instagram, baby boomers drop off. They don't really mess around with Instagram. X is limited to specific demographics. TikTok is more limited to specific demographics. You do get some outliers, but statistically speaking, you're seeing more millennial, Gen Z, and man, what is it? Look, I'm not an expert on demographics, but you can go look these up and see which demographics are using which platforms if you're trying to get a social strategy together. The other way to think about that too is, so if I'm going to be posting my listings or posting links back to my website, I know I definitely want to use Facebook because it's going to reach the most eyeballs. And then for communication purposes, when you're doing lead follow-up and outreach, you know you want to use a mixture of calls, texts, and emails, because somebody like a baby boomer is going to probably be more likely to respond to a phone call. Millennials and Gen Z are most likely going to respond to text messages, right? So something to think about there. 72% work with the first agent they talk to, which I think is interesting because why? Because we know they become a lead multiple times. For whatever reason, they're not talking to all of the agents whose CRM they live in, but they end up working with the first agent who actually connects with them and talks to them. And we know they're looking for a personalized experience. So this gets us into the consumer timeline. This is where I was talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1, this is your pre-research phase. These are the ones that you probably may feel some annoyance with because you call them and they go, I'm not really interested. And then it's like, well, why did you sign up? You know? Or, oh, I'm just looking. They're not being totally honest with you. They are interested. I don't know if you've heard of the LP Mama framework for asking questions. It's location, price, mortgage, agent, motivation, and appointment. So something has to happen with these leads before they're ready to have a conversation with you. They need to know if they're seriously motivated or not. They need to know how motivated they're feeling so they can, determine a timeline. They need to know what price range they're looking in, what's realistic for them. They need to know if they're going to be pre-approved, if they can secure a mortgage for that amount. You know what I mean? So if I am looking and I've just started looking and I actually don't know the answer to those 3 questions, and you call me, I'm going to say I'm just looking because I don't know enough about what I want or need to be able to communicate that to you. And it feels overwhelming. See what I'm saying? So they say I'm just looking or I'm not interested. Excuse me. And that's okay because we know that they can stay in this phase for about a year, maybe a little over a year, but eventually they're going to move into phase 2. And when they move into phase 2, that's when they've started to really understand that their own wants and needs, and they're able to articulate that to you. They've also done enough research that they probably have questions that they're not able to answer on their own, and they're ready to raise their hand or tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, what do you know about this? Or what can you tell me about this? And that's really the sweet spot. This says they stay in this phase roughly around 6 months. So when you get leads who are ready to transact in the next 3 to 6 months, I like to think of them as phase 2 leads. They know what they want. They know what they're looking for. You might have to do a couple things to help them smooth over a couple of, blocks in the road to help shift them over into phase 3. But these are the ones who are a little bit more pliable. They're more willing to have conversations and work with you. And that's exciting. I wish the majority of leads were in phase 2 personally. Phase 3 is great. Everybody loves phase 3. This is when you're actually actively helping them buy or sell. So you're all really familiar with that. I won't spend too much time on that, but hopefully the phase 1, phase 2 concept gives you a little bit of insight into the way we think about leads and why it's important to have good communication and nurture them. And when you understand where they're at in the timeline, it helps you be more effective with nurturing them. And then Jack that I work with, we do a lot of these kind of webinars where we talk about these kind of concepts. And one thing he always says is, if you knew that every lead in your database was going to transact in the next 24 months, how would you treat them differently? How would you talk to them differently? How would you nurture them differently if you knew that they were going to transact in the next 24 months? Well, we don't know that, right? But we can assume that the majority of them will, because these are the stats and this is the timeline we end up with. 2 years seems like an abnormally long time to nurture someone, but just know you're going to get some of these leads in here who are going to seemingly stay stagnant for quite some time. But the nice thing is we have things built into the platform that are going to indicate to you when they start moving into phase 2 so that you can open up that communication again. Okay, so what is your number one goal when you get a new lead? I often hear things like get an appointment, have a conversation with them, get a buyer's agreement, close the deal. And those are really not wrong necessarily. They're the outcomes we're looking for, right? But our number one goal when you first get a new lead has to be to stop their search. What do I mean by stop their search? I mean, get them to engage more with you personally or with your website and eliminate the competition as much as possible. This is where I go back to, we know they become a lead 8 to 10 times. How are you going to ensure that you're the agent they talk to first? To just be thinking about how many other agents they see all the time. I mean, if you think about it, you probably can think of 5 real estate agents in your area at any given time that you know. It's the same for everybody. There's a lot of real estate agents, right? So what differentiates you? What sets you apart? What's going to keep you connected with these leads? So our number one goal is increase engagement, right? And we have, whether they're talking to you or they're like, oh, I'm just looking. If they say, I'm just looking, great. Let me help you look more, right? Let me help keep you engaged. Have you set up search alerts yet? Do you have certain criteria in mind that you like or you're looking for? And they'll let you set up search alerts for them. Or what's really cool about your website is the lead can actually set up their own search alerts. So if they're savvy enough, they can do that. If they aren't sure how to do that, they can ask you to do that. That's great. It's a great conversation starter. And it's something that they feel some gratitude to you for allowing them to continue searching, even though I'm just looking or I'm not ready yet. And really the great thing is it just keeps them coming back to your website, keeps you top of mind with them so that when they're ready, they're going to reach out to you, and they're less likely to go out looking on other agents' websites if they're getting what they need from you. The monthly market reports, similar idea there. It's really something that it's just a great way to keep you top of mind. Have them contact you directly if they're seeing things like, rates or home inventory or things like that they have questions about. They can contact you. And those are both automated. So I call that out because this next one, similar in nearby listings, is not automated, but it's so easy, super easy to use. Basically, say Sally gets captured on your website for looking at 123 Main Street, and you go pull up her contact, you see she looked at 123 Main Street, and you click on the listing. Then what happens is a list will pop up. There's little buttons on the listing page that say similar listings, nearby listings. And if you click on those, there's this curated list of already existing listings in the MLS that meet their criteria. The great thing about these is if Sally sets up a search alert, it's going to send her new listings from the moment she signs up. But these similar and nearby listings won't be included in that because they already existed before she signed up. So this is one touch point I love. It's like, hey, I saw you were looking at this. I saw you have a search alert, but here are some other listings that match that criteria that won't pull in. I didn't want you to miss them. And they're like, oh, wow, this is so great. What a great agent. They just totally went above and beyond. So really good experience for them. And it's really just a click of a button. You just click the button, select all, or select the properties you want, and then hit send text or send email. There's a pre-populated message in there you can tweak if you want. You don't have to, but it's a really easy way for you to connect and look like you've gone above and beyond. And then we've got smart campaigns and behavioral automation. And I always go back and forth between, should I separate them or should I not? Because they're a little bit different. So the nuances are they both have automated messaging that goes out to the client on your behalf or the lead on your behalf. All of the messaging can be updated. So, if there's a message that you're like, oh, that doesn't really sound like me, you can go change it and update it, and that's fine. The smart campaigns can use text, calls, emails. It can set up tasks for you. So there's a lot of capability with the smart campaigns. We've got 9 defaults that are already running for you. And like I said, you can go edit those if you want to, or you can just let them be. They do a great job. And then the behavioral automation, there's just like a subset of messages. With the behavioral automation, what's cool is it monitors consumer behavior. So when leads are on your website, if they complete certain activities multiple times, or if they revisit your website day after day, there are these behaviors that the system considers high intent behaviors. And those behaviors will trigger the automation to send a message. And it's also going to send you a message and say, hey, guess what? Sally has been on your website 5 days in a row, and she's looked at this property 7 times. And so it gives you this insight to help you know who to reach out to, right? Who's getting into phase 2, and what can you talk to them about? So that's really cool. Now, if we talk about staying involved, a lot of this can apply to getting connected as well. But this is really like, how do you get people to stay engaged with you? Instead of you having to go out constantly and outreach to people, 2 of the best things you can do are create paths back to your website with clickable links or QR codes or text codes. Just something that's going to call people back into your online store. Compelling content is key. So you want to really be considering who is your audience, who's your niche, who's your target market, who are you really wanting to get engaged, and then create content that's super relevant to those people. And not just fluff either, right? I know a lot of times people will go, something's better than nothing. And in most cases, that's true. But in some cases, it's just annoying and not valuable. And if you get too much fluff going, a lot of times consumers will go, oh, I can ignore that. So you don't want things like that. You want things that are valuable, that are relevant, and then including a call to action, a path back to your website is great. And then making it easy to find is another really key kind of component to staying involved. So the next question I always get is, what is relevant content? Well, I will start by saying there's nothing more relevant than what your consumers are already engaging with. So with BoldTrail, you want to sort of monitor behaviors. You actually can look in your business analytics, or your vitals tab, and you can look at your website engagement and see which pages people are visiting the most. which areas are most popular, what listings are the most popular, what price range is the most popular. And then you can form all of your content based on those things that are super engaging to people who are already interacting with your website. So I did add a couple of ideas here for the different phases. Phase one, we know pictures and details of homes, super engaging. You don't have to do anything there, but I listed it because that's key. But something you could do is create a beginner tips and guides, like first time home buyer guide or seller's guide or an area guide or something like that, right? And then stuff that is informative and generally appeals to a broader audience is great content. Phase two, this is where, like I said, they really have a pretty informed idea about where they're looking. And so again, this can kind of play off of your vital insights, area information. If people are interested in certain areas, enhance those area pages and make them look really nice and really call out what the locals love about that area or what are the most popular things to do in that area. There's a lot of enhancing you can do on those pages. They already look lovely, but there are some things you can do to really boost that experience for when people are on your website. FAQs is great. I know you probably all have those interactions every time you start working with somebody where they ask the same questions. Everybody's asking the same questions over and over and over. And so what I would really recommend is use that to your benefit, create content you can put on your website. And when people are asking questions, you can answer them and say, you know what? I'm also going to send you this page on my website that you can come back to anytime because it answers all these questions. So you're a great resource. Testimonials are great, especially when you start getting into phase two, or even a little bit pre-phase two when people are going, okay, I think I'm ready. Who do I want to work with? And they might start looking up, agents' testimonials in the area, and your page could pop up. So, and then phase three, I'm not going to spend a ton of time because phase three relevant content really tends to be based off of conversations you're having. These people are basically your clients. And I guess the one piece here could be like a referral page. There's a vendor guide that you could create. This is one of our custom page templates. I love this tool. You can go, moving companies and things like that on there, house cleaners, things like that. I mean, really any local business that you network with or you trust or have great reviews from, you can create a page on your website that you can refer your customers to. So that's really cool. This just talks about the behavioral insights again. These are actually the activities that trigger the behavioral automation to fire off. So you can kind of take a look at those for a second and see what happens there. But these are indicators that people are actively using and engaging in the platform and could be entering phase two. And all of the activity that occurs, you can see on your main page, they pop up in these little tiles here. And you want to go through and make sure that you're working these leads. If they ask a question, respond to them. Check out what listings they're looking at, what area, and try and figure out if there's something you can do to help support them in their search. You get new leads, you need to respond to them, right? So your dashboard is built to help you focus on the most important things first. And then to help us wrap up here, I just want to sort of land on this slide. This is where we were talking about consistently adding new leads. So we know that the majority of agents are adding 10 or less leads per month. Agents who add 40 or more leads per month are doing 5 times the transactions of those agents who are only adding 10 leads. We also know that agents who are logging in every day to their platform are doing 9 times the transactions. And that's because they're following up quickly. They're staying on top of activity. They're, they know all the insights and they are taking action. And then agents who engage with multi-touch alerts. So agents who are using the follow-up and automation. So this is agents who have 50% or more of their contacts on campaigns are doing 3 times as much business as agents who have 10% or less of their contacts on campaigns. They're being found, they're staying connected and staying involved. And we know that that works. So we have so many training resources available for you guys too. I wanted to show you Bold Academy. We have a product training learning portal available, and that goes through sort of platform basics and tools. Bold Academy does a lot more of this strategic, why and how to implement, and some of the concepts we've talked about today. So this is a fun portal. We do a lot of live webinars. We have on-demand courses. We've got short form videos. We've got downloadable resources, and we have an awesome community of agents who are involved. We have fun challenges all the time. We've got one coming up and starting this week, actually, called the Bold 30 Challenge, and it revolves around increasing your GCI by 30% in the next 12 months. So really targeted training and ideas and things that you can take away, actionable activities to go and implement into your business right away. So that's what you'll get with Bold Academy. Come check it out if you haven't already. And feel free to reach out to me if you would like an invite to that and you don't have the invitation or you haven't seen it. I don't think we've got time to go through most of these future innovations today, but we'll have communications going out. A lot of them are AI related and they're really cool. Just making sure that, you're getting all the information from the conversations you're having. They help you stay organized. So keep an eye out for all of those cool enhancements coming out. But, really just wanted to land on this, letting you know that Inside Real Estate and BoldTrail is committed to being a reliable tech partner for you. We're committed to providing the service, training, and support that you need to scale your business. And we're committed to being an innovation leader to keep you on top of the industry. That's who we are. We want to drive toward real outcomes with you. So, if you've not had a chance to log in, or whether you have before, go check it out. Go try out some of the things we talked about today. Take advantage of our end-to-end ecosystem and be better on BoldTrail.